Are there advantages to aging? Yes, I am Debbi-Jo Horton, and welcome to Advantages to Aging. Join my guests and I as we discuss aging and what makes for a healthy lifestyle, which results in a quality life. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Advantages to Aging. You are going to love today's episode. With me, I have Rachel Friedman from Rachel Back Consulting. She is a life and business coach. I love her attitude, and we are going to get to some really interesting things. So welcome, Rachel.
Thank you for having me. I'm
Oh,
excited to be here.
I'm excited that you're here as well. So I've been trying to get to this subject matter for a while because it was so prevalent when I was having to make a decision. So, when you're in that high school age where you got to start thinking about college and all the people around you are saying, go to college, get a good job, you'll have a great life. And years can go by and all of a sudden you go like, how on earth did I get here? And I've not been happy, but yes, I have been able to do certain things, but isn't there more? You help people with that, right, Rachel?
I do. I love helping people with that. That was a little bit of my journey, right? Of kind of in a job, doing something that I did actually enjoy, but it just wasn't. I was burnt out, honestly. I was working lots of hours and I just knew there had to be something more. And I just had this deep craving for always, as long as I can remember, just working for myself, no one else telling me when to show up, all that stuff. I think so often people hang on to what's stable or what they think they're supposed to do because because of fear, right? I mean, I think we all have fear. It's part of being a human. And so often our fear runs our life and doesn't have to. And it's horrible because the fear that's running in the background, as you know, DJ, affects everything, right? It affects your health.
Right.
It affects your body. It affects your skin. It affects everything.
Right. Every single aspect of your entire life. And, oftentimes people say, well, if I were younger, I'd take the leap. But why would you wait? Why waste the rest of your life not enjoying, even if it is a risk? So I know you help people get started and overcome that fear. So give us some tips of those people that are sitting there on the edge of their seat going, oh my God, she's talking about me.
Yeah. So I think first and foremost, the most important thing is just acknowledging the fear that it is part of being human. It is what has kept us alive. It is what has allowed us to evolve to being alive today, right? So we want to thank it. We want to be grateful for it because without it, we wouldn't exist. So it's so often I think we shame it and we're like, oh, well, I shouldn't be afraid. No, you should be afraid. It's part of being human. And it's there to it's to protect you, to keep you safe. And the cool thing is, I always say to my clients, we don't live in caves anymore. So you can feel the fear and do the shit anyway. So I always tell people the first step though is holding that space for yourself. If you're feeling scared, good, you should be. So the first step
get worried if you don't.
Yeah, the first step is stop shaming yourself for having it. And then just acknowledge, right? Acknowledge yourself that you have this even desire, right? And that is so beautiful and that it's a choice. And yes, there's no bad or good or right or wrong choice, but if you're being called to do something, I would say the next step is sort of starting to tap into your creative side. Okay, I'm being called to this. I want to start my own this, or I want to be working for myself, or I want to leave this 9-to-5 job that I've had forever. And now I want to, follow this passion, right? Okay, get yourself some support. So I did it without support the first time, and it's a lot harder. So find either a friend or a mentor, somebody right? A coach, somebody.
And it isn't always your family.
Probably not your family, honestly. If you're anything like me or a lot of people I know, like my family's very supportive. But the very first time I decided, I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years now, it was a little bit like, have you lost your mind? Like, who do you think you are? And it's like, they don't mean to not always be supportive, but again, they're doing what society has told us is what we're supposed to do.
And they think they're protecting you.
Of course, they love you. They want to keep you safe. That's all everybody wants. Like, so the human brain is actually wired for three things. A lot of people don't know this. It's called the motivational triad. It's safety. Number two, comfort. So starting a business or starting anything that's you haven't done before is going against the motivational triad. It's not safe. It's not comfortable. And the third one is to use as little energy as possible. And guess what? You are going to have to use a lot of energy. So you've literally just shattered everything that your brain is wired for. So it's important to acknowledge that. I think it's important to know that you're going against a little bit of what we have been trained for. And that doesn't mean you can't do it. The other thing I always say, it's good to have like a mentor, a coach, a friend or someone, but also to align yourself with other people that are in entrepreneurship. Because here's the thing, when you get into that's how DJ and I met, right? Like when you get into a collective of other people who are maybe not like DJ and I'll do the same thing, but like both in the entrepreneurial world, and you surround yourself with like-minded people who are willing to take this risk, right? Willing to jump off that cliff. Like you can then share with them your fears and they can actually resonate with you, right? Yeah. They can feel it with you and you won't feel so alone, right? You also are way less likely to give up. A lot of people give up in that first or second year, right? And it's because they haven't given themselves the support and they haven't given themselves like that cushion to land on, meaning other people to like bounce off ideas with. Other people to be like, hey, I'm really struggling today. Or, hey, I'm scared. Or I'm really doubting right now. This is all so normal. Like, of course, it goes against everything you've been trained. So I would say the first thing is just holding that space for yourself, like acknowledging that this is going to be scary and don't try to dismiss that. The second thing is, holding space for yourself. And the third thing is getting a lot of support.
That's great advice.
Debbi-Jo with Neora. You know what our brand partners love the most about their Neora business? They can do it from anywhere. Think about it. Haven't you always wanted to have your own schedule, be your own boss, maybe even have a global business and be able to run it from your favorite coffee shop or lounging by the pool or seaside, not having to go into the office? We make sure that all of our brand partners have all of the tools they need to run their business while fitting it into their busy lives. So if that's something that you've been curious about, what it might be like for you to be able to do life on your own terms, then I think we need to chat.
I know sometimes people think that I have to leave my 9-to-5 job in order to jump in. And you and I both know that that's not necessarily what has to happen, although sometimes circumstances arise that totally make that happen. How do you help support people through that?
Yeah, I think it's great that you brought that up because I actually tell people to not leave their 9-to-5 job or to not leave if they can. Obviously, if they got laid off, that's a different situation. But like if you're in a 9-to-5 job, if you're not like miserable, which I always believe that misery is actually optional. So you can always change the way you're thinking about a situation. So I'm not saying we make it always roses and butterflies, but it doesn't have to be horrible. The reason I actually encourage people to stay is when you put a lot of pressure on anything, and if you put a lot of pressure on a new business, it is less likely to be successful. Whereas if you have that financial backing, that financial support of knowing you have a paycheck or knowing something's coming in to pay your bills, then that freedom to really dive in creatively into your business is so much easier, right? Like if you're constantly thinking, so I like to think of when you start a business, I compare it to having a baby. Okay. So you just birth. I'm a mom. You just birthed maybe your third child or your fourth child, depending on how many children you have, right? Or if you have none, you birthed your first child. And would you expect your newborn to bring home a paycheck and to feed you? No. Right? So you have to nurture this baby. You have to feed it. You have to love it. And that's going to take some time. And if you have the pressure that you need it to be feeding you, it's a recipe for disaster.
I love that analogy because oftentimes we do expect that immediately we're going to be earning more than what we are in our 9-to-5 job. And that's just not realistic. It's a great goal. But the other thing that oftentimes people do is they figure, well, I'm making $20 an hour. I'm going to price my services at $20 an hour. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
You want to be successful. You actually want to be taking more because now you're going to be paying your own taxes. You're going to be paying your own health insurance once you do leave that 9-to-5 job. So you don't want to be starting off too small. So that's another reason why you might want to use a business coach, because they're going to help you to set the proper expectations. Would you agree?
100%. Actually, it's interesting. I was just talking to my last client about this. We were talking about pricing a little bit about her package. And I was talking about employee mindset versus entrepreneur mindset. Employee mindset thinks on the hour to hour. It thinks about my hour is worth this. An entrepreneur thinks about the value of the result that you provide. So it's no longer that my hour is worth this. It's the collective of when I'm finished with you, that's what the value is of, at least for this client, right? Of her package, right? And I think, like you said, as an entrepreneur, there are a lot of factors that are going to go into it, like your own insurance, like you said, you're paying your own taxes and, just all the expenses that come into your business, that it's not just that hour anymore. It's also like, how much time are you, like, depending on what you do, how much time are you spending outside with that client? Like, I spend time thinking about working on some of my clients' stuff when I'm not also with them. So it's really important that value really has more to do with your level of confidence than it actually does with anything else.
Well, the last question I have, quick answer. It's definitely something I'm sure we could dive even deeper into. And that is the mindset shift that needs to take place from a 9-to-5. So I don't turn on my brain until 9 o'clock in the morning and I turn it off at 5, versus being an entrepreneur where it never really turns off. Even though you might be on vacation and you might not actually do work, you're still thinking about it. So how do you help prepare people for that huge shift?
Yes. And that's, oh God, it is a big shift for all of us. Right. And I think you have to learn how to be the CEO, the manager, the employee, and the janitor all in one. And so you have to start treating yourself as all of those. So you have to create deadlines. You have to have a schedule. So to some people, like, oh, that sounds so regimented. The whole reason I'm leaving my 9-to-5 is so I can have all that freedom. Well, it's a business. You have to treat it like a business. So it's shifting your mindset into, oh, I am running a company.
Right.
And what does that company need in order to be successful?
Right.
It needs deadlines. And I'm going to even if you only work for yourself, and even if you have no employees, you are your employee. And there's definitely tools, but it's definitely shifting into that space.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you said, you need to treat it like a business, because there's a saying that is so appropriate. Treat it like a hobby. It'll pay you like a hobby. Treat it like a business and it will support your lifestyle.
Yeah.
But with that, I am so grateful that you were able to get on and give everybody some great information about starting their own business. I'm sure everybody listening is got the wheels turning, thinking, oh my goodness, what about this and what about that? I love entrepreneurship. I've been an entrepreneur for most of my life, more than 50 years. Yikes. But I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. So, and I know, Rachel, that now you've experienced both. I'm sure you feel the same way.
Absolutely.
Is there any last minute things that you want to share?
The only thing I would share is do it. If you want to start your own business, if you have a passion for something or have an idea for something, don't let your fear win. The worst thing that will happen is you'll end up back in your 9-to-5 job, but you'll never know.
Do you think one of the biggest advantages to aging is all the knowledge we gain along the way? Me too. What did you learn today? Share with me in my Facebook group with the same name as this podcast, Advantages to Aging. Now hit subscribe so you don't miss all the tips to come in future episodes.